Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and I'm so excited to have you here for today's conversation. It just so happens to be our very last conversation of our Men's Wellbeing Month, which I think out of all of the months that we've had, women's well-being was so amazing and seeing how women are different, and men's well-being has been really amazing for showing how men are different, how we can support men, maybe the different conversations that are of importance, and possibly the things that men don't talk about and maybe the things that we don't think about. So it's been very eye-opening, very enlightening. We've had many guides and many conversations. We've talked about how to be vulnerable as a man. We've talked about building your tribe. We've talked about there was a hostile takeover, and we talked about how to build a relationship where men thrive, where we have a married couple of guides who did that conversation while I was away. Last week, we talked about accountability, and this week, we are going to talk about how to navigate these silent struggles and pressures that men face because there's a lot that happens under the surface, which we have been leading up to in all of our sessions. And our guide today, Stanley, is really amazing. He is trauma informed, he has studied some neuroscience and is one of our neuroplasticians. So he is going to be a great wealth of knowledge, and he went above and beyond in his preparatory endeavors for this conversation. As soon as I reached out to him and I was like, hey, can we please have you for this month's conversation? He came to every Motivational Monday and he was like, okay, this is where all of them intertwine. These are maybe some of the things that we can bring up that we haven't dove super deep into yet. So I'm very excited to introduce him, but I want to give you all a final reminder of the men's well-being statistics before I give Stanley an introduction, because this will fuel a little bit of our conversation as well and hopefully give you food for thought in the realization that we are all living complex, very, yeah, just very full, rich, whole lives, and we all go through a lot. So, one of the statistics is that men are almost four times more likely to die by suicide than women, and it remains one of the leading causes for death for men under 35, and 80% of suicides are men. About 15% of men report having zero close friends, which increases their risk for depression and isolation. Nearly two-thirds, about 65% of men say they're hesitant to seek professional help for stress, anxiety, and depression. So, not seeking that support, being isolated, are none of those are good for us. And then because of that, men are also two to three times more likely than women to have a substance use disorder in their lifetime. So, men go through their own varied experience. I could never speak to what that's like as a woman, but I've had a lot of conversations with men over the years because I feel like there is a narrative that um, we should be hating men right now. And I think societally, we're all really frustrated about a crazy patriarchy that we live in. But overall, I think individually, men are amazing and have the opportunity to be amazing. And I think that man hating can cause even more harm in the world when it's not the individual people that are necessarily causing the problems. It's a larger perspective. So for us, it's about rehumanizing men and helping you see, if you're a man or a woman, helping you see that men matter or that you matter, and giving you some insight into maybe how to explore different layers of yourself. So, with all of that being said, we have the wonderful Stanley here. I'm so excited. It's your first time meeting him for any of our events. And prepping for this conversation has been so good. I just know this is going to be such a good one and the perfect one to close out the month with. So, what Stanley does is he helps people understand themselves so that they can live with confidence and calm. His coaching uses simple brain science, gentle reflection, and trauma-aware tools to help you notice your patterns and choose new ways of responding. He slows things down, helps make sense of what's happening inside of you, and builds skills that help you stay steady in the hard moments. You don't have to explain your whole story. He holds space for your identity, your past, and your goals. His work is part mindset, part healing, and part practical support. And ideally, the result is clearer choices, stronger boundaries, and a way of living that feels real and grounded to you. So we're so excited to have Stanley here. Stanley, thank you so much for being here for today's conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey in this modern day as a man?
I guess I'd like to start out by reminding people that this is Pride Month for our LGBTQ plus folks, and I want to say Happy Pride to all those folks, and also that includes all their allies. Okay, so it's not just that month, and I say that because I'm a gay man, and I was socialized like all men were socialized. I grew up in the '60s and '70s. At the height of the civil rights movement, the gay liberation movement, and the women's liberation. So my socialization was the same as all men through a heteronormative lens, right? I had the same patterns and survival modes as all men do. And in addition, I had the challenges of coming to understand myself not as just a man, but as a Black gay man. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen around Black men, particularly when it relates to them being gay. As I was growing up, though, I found myself kind of stuck in this default mode of internalized racism and internalized homophobia. Um, so my socialization actually led me to feeling some self-hatred and isolation. When I decided that I was going to leave home and go to college and start work, I really survived by becoming very stoic. You know, I was afraid that any laughter or any show of emotions would found me out as a gay man, and so I just shut down all emotions. So I didn't know what love felt like. I didn't know. I just didn't learn some of those things as I was growing up. So it's really important that we understand that we do carry more than one marginalized identity. A lot of us do. And so those identities kind of pile up on each other. And so they created this even deeper wall to break through when you're trying to get men to talk about what's going on with them. It was already shared that when I'm working with people, I do try to do it through a trauma-informed and neuroscience lens. And I invite you all to sort of learn about those two things, but not as a practitioner, but as another body of information that you have from which you can pull and understand and support what may lie under the surface for men.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, Stanley. I was so excited that we got to have Pride representation during this month, because especially in the form of a gay male, because I feel like it's an important conversation regardless of when in the year we're having this conversation. I feel like, and we'll talk about it a little bit during today's conversation, but I feel like internalized homophobia, whether you're a straight man or a gay man, is also something that contributes to how men walk throughout the world. Men feel more isolated and lonely because, unfortunately, there is a stereotypical expectation, or not expectation, but narrative that if you show too much emotion, or if you express yourself in a certain way, then you're viewed as gay, which, being gay is a great, beautiful thing. Welcome to life, guides. We love all people and all humans, and there's no good or bad that necessarily can be seen from it. We're all humans living our experience and loving who we want to love. But what we start to see is when there is internalized homophobia in men, straight men. You see it in the sports communities. Sometimes you see it in very macho communities as well, where even like giving a man a hug, you hear someone say no homo. And it's like, you don't have to caveat your expression of adoration for someone and love for someone with the caveat that it's not a sexual love. Like that, though there are differences that we can note in all of that, but I think being able to express yourself, and this ties back to how to build a healthy community conversation. Being able to express yourself is very important, and being able to be true to yourself is very important. So, Stanley, this isn't necessarily a conversation that, or a question that we had prepared for, but I know that in our conversations, you'll be great for this one. How, how do you feel about the conversation in general about authenticity, self-love, and self-expression as a man? And I want to say this as a man who's straight or bisexual or asexual or gay or anywhere on the spectrum. How can we start to pull away those layers of conditioning? And I know that you had to go through it as well with your own internalized homophobia. How can we pull away those layers of conditioning to feel more safe as men to express ourselves and our emotions in a way that is honest and true to us, or to men?
Well, I have to say that that's a lifelong journey to begin with for many of us. And I'm 72 years old, so my experience of all of this may be different than someone who's 50, 40, 30, certainly 20. But one of the things I had to do is find a community, and we've heard people talk about that. Find a community, and it wasn't necessarily all gay people. It's just finding a community where I felt safe and I felt supported and I felt loved. So it really wasn't about just having just me as a gay person, but really creating and it's really about creating the community, right? I created the community to support me, and so that was one of the really big things I had to do. But that took some time because I was still kind of stuck in what are people going to think, And when I was growing up, just so you all know, I was told that there is no such thing as a black gay person. So then I was like, well, then what am I? If I'm gay and I'm black, but if people are telling me that there's no such thing, so I had to work through that as well. There's a lot of layers and layers and layers I had to remove for me to really begin this journey of self-acceptance and just being sort of proud of who I am as a man, as a partner, as a brother, as a son, and all of that. So it's just taking away and really paying attention to those different layers. But unfortunately, a lot of that didn't happen for me until my 30s. So I went for 30, 25 years or so, just kind of surviving. And that's what it felt like, my neuroscience, brain was like trying to protect me so much in regards to being a gay man. And the conversation today really is not just about gay men, but it just happens, that's who I am. So it does require us to take a look at what's going on with us and start taking those layers away. And I said I didn't start doing that to my 30s because that's when I got into therapy.
It's a
Oh,
conversation.
can I say one more thing, Kara? And I got
Please.
into therapy not because I was gay. Please don't get confused by that. I accepted who I am and long before my 30s, but I got into therapy because of all the crazy other stuff, that was happening around me that I really couldn't put my finger on and I couldn't fix. So, I found myself in depression. I found myself using alcohol as a way to kind of help that. And so it really took a while for me to kind of break through all of that crazy, stupid stuff. One of the things about when you think about neuroscience is our brains internalize everything that we see and everything that, let me try it again. It turns out everything that we see, but our brain is not separating out what's good or bad. It's just taking all that information in. And that's why I lived an internalized homophobia and internalized racism life for a very long period of time because I had internalized all those horrible messages that I received. And I act as if they were true, which is the very sad thing.
To me, it's a conversation around self-love. And
Yes.
it regardless of what makes you different in the world, it doesn't matter if it's your who you love, the way you dress, the way you talk, the things you like, the food you eat, the way you spend your free time. We are living in a world where all of us have a lot of pressures, but I feel like men are navigating these silent pressures with some level of internalized hatred for what makes them who they are outside of the societal expectation of what a man is supposed to be. The societal expectation of what a man is supposed to be is about this big. The truth of what a man actually is bigger than my little arms can go, and definitely bigger than this screen can hold. So I want you to put it in the chat for those of you who are here. Um, if you're a man, you can say, I love myself. And if you're a woman, you can say, I love myself as well. Or you can say that you have a man in your life that you love as him. And I want that to be the reminder for the conversation because if we can see that we are enough as we are, then what's going to happen is we're going to be able to show up a lot fuller and feel that wholeness and also feel better about the lives that we live. If we're starting and showing up with self-love, then hopefully those suicide statistics go down. If we're starting to show up with self-love and be like, cool, the way that I express myself is like this, and I love it, then maybe we'll have less drug and alcohol abuse. Maybe we will seek out more help and support. So I am leaving a message in the chat. And I've always been the friend. My friends, it doesn't matter if they were coming out or they were telling me that they were changing their life around or whatever. My best friend, my childhood best friend is gay, and I was the first person he told. And I was like, okay, and? And he was like, wait, it doesn't change anything? I'm like, no, of course not. But it wouldn't
Yes.
matter if you were telling me that you were going to be a scientist or if you wanted to go live in Antarctica. I'd be like, okay, cool, go do it. I love it. So, we've got some great comments in the chat. I have men in my life, my son that I love where he is, but I wish he would open up and speak through his challenges. And just so you know, for those of you who have access to life guides through your employer, or a different company that you're partnered with. Some of you are going to school with an organization that's partnered with Life Guides. Anyone in your family and in your household who's 18 or above in your household also gets access to Life Guides. So maybe you send them a recording of some of the events that we've had here, and maybe you're like, "Hey, there might be a Life Guide for you." So, we've got Vince saying, "I love myself. Being a leader sometimes makes it a challenge to reach out for help."
Yep. I hear that.
Do you have anything to say to that specifically, Stanley, about kind of the dichotomy between leadership and expressing ourselves and reaching out for help?
No, I mean, one of the things that I'm really proud of is I came out in my workplace back in 1992. Um, I had to do that because I was leading a diversity and equity inclusion program, one of the first for a hospital in the area that I lived in. And I realized that I couldn't be true to other people if I wasn't true to myself about who I am. And so in the workshops that I did, I always outed myself. And it was amazing the kind of support that was there, but also it was amazing the people who also were LGBTQ plus who found some safety in the fact that a leader, I mean, I was a director, that a leader was coming out in front of a 40 or 50 people all at once. I just think that the journey is really important for us in regards to making sure that we are working on presenting our most authentic self. I mean, I certainly feel that now. You can see that I'm not stoic now. I definitely, show energy and I have lots of emotions around things. But I just think that a lot of men, and it doesn't have to do with your sexual orientation, are going through lots of different things that we kind of keep under the surface. I mean, we typically take three or four, three different survival identities. We're the fixers. We have to solve everything, and we can't rest. We have to solve everything. We also become lone wolves, meaning we evolve vulnerability, and we carry everything internally. And then the third one that these are the three most identified survival tactics for men is the protector. That means I prioritize others' needs well over my own needs. And so I carried all three of these identities. So you can imagine the challenge, that I had and really trying to find my authentic self because, I was a protector, which meant, what I already shared with you. I was a lone wolf. I was a fixer. And so everything was about out there, what's going on out there, and not about me and who I am. Like I said, once again, just living my more authentic self. And we all carry survival identities, and one of the things about the survival identities is men do feel that they need to hold these emotions and burdens alone, We normalize stress, we normalize exhaustion and emotional suppression. That is how a real man operates in the world. I mean, I'm sorry to be so, whatever, but that's me today. And this cultural script or socialization that we have been a part of tells us you have to handle it, you don't complain, and you don't need anything. You don't need anyone to help you with this. And so we have this pressure that we carry every day and alone often to stay strong, stay steady, and not show emotion, or you appear weak. So the script really erodes at our physical and mental health.
Brene Brown has this quote, and it's something along the lines of the first thing that I want to see in others is their vulnerability, but the last
Mm.
thing that I want to show within myself is my vulnerability. And how powerful would it be if those of us who are leaders told people that we do struggle, that I do get anxiety from time to time, that almost every time before I start Motivational Monday, I'm like, oh my gosh, is anyone gonna like what is being said? And it's true. And I feel like the more that we see that, oh, I'm not the only one going through this, and that leaders aren't above human emotion and the human experience, I feel like it makes it a lot easier to connect and to see that we all are navigating silent pressures and different layers of our lives. So with all of that being said, Stanley, I I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit about what you feel like most men are going through that's happening under the surface. I think you touched on some of it just now. And then also the deeper layers of why do men feel like they need to hold these emotional burdens alone?
Well, I'm going to start with that one first. It really all goes back to our socialization. And the socialization says that men act a certain way. As you said, we get to show this much of kind of who we are. And so that socialization then tells us that all the things I kind of just listed, we have to be the ones that are strong. We can't show any weakness. Those kinds of things are also lying under the surface for individuals. And one of the challenges then is paying attention to those moments when you feel like maybe in your body or in your brain that something different is happening and that you're not quite sure what's going on. And that's part of the neuroscientific part of all of this, as we look at ourselves and look at how we act as act and interact as men in this world. It becomes very challenging sometimes when you want and need someone to be there for you so that you can share your own emotional power. I'm the person that everyone came to, and I'm sure a lot of us are. That's why we're probably guides, right? I'm the person that everyone came to, but I never trusted one person to take on me, take on my challenges, take on my worries and my woes and all that. I just didn't trust anyone else could handle that, and that's kind of silly, but that's how I lived for a very long time. So I just internalized everything. And of course, internalizing all that just makes you sick. It doesn't do you any good to keep it all inside. And so it's really important then, as a lot of the other presenters have said over the course of the last 4 weeks, that we create our own. Certainly create our community, create the folks that we want to feel safe with, that we want to be able to go to and share those emotions. Even right now, there's probably one person who knows about all of me, but basically, I spread it out to lots of different people. So different, some people know this about me, some people know that, etc. And I think that is also part of my challenge as a man, that I just feel that I have to always hold on and to all the stuff that's going on with me and not let one other person know that I'm struggling, because it it was given to me as a message, as a sign of weakness, to show or share any of those emotions, certainly, but anything that makes you seem less than a man, less than a man, whatever that means. And certainly there's a continuum of how we are as men. It just feels very challenging. And so a lot of us experience all of that. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting to talk. We don't often talk about men struggling, and that's what's so important about this month. We just don't often talk about that, and it's so important. And I'm so glad that we're doing it as guides so that we can have a better idea of the fact that men are going through really some of the really challenging things, and we need to support and love just like all the other folks.
I love that you highlight being a guide as well, because sometimes when people do hear these conversations, maybe through a podcast that they're listening to on Apple Music or Spotify, it's not someone that you have access to help you navigate this. with these conversations at Life Guides, I very specifically pick and curate the guides that are having these conversations because they are someone that you have access to. You can schedule a call with Stanley right now, whether you're a male or a female. You can start to go through starting to unpack some of this. And he is not only trauma informed and neuroplastician in regards to men's well-being, he can help all people, but this is what we're highlighting this week. So I don't know how 25 minutes has already passed, Stanley. We only have 5 minutes left, but I do want to talk about the neuroscientific implications of what holding all of this in means. And for those of you who are new to neuroscience, neuroscience is a study of the way that the brain works. And a lot of the reason why so many of us have these internal struggles is because our brain works a certain way. We cannot change that, but we work a different way outside of it. And we have this internal struggle because we think our way is the right way. And when things are going wrong, we think that it's wrong because of us. But really, a lot of times it's wrong just because our brain actually works a different way. So, what are those neuroscientific implications of holding all of this in on a deeper level?
And I think a lot of people are already aware of some of these things. So the first one that I think about is elevated blood pressure. And so that's a real biggie. Sleep disruption is another one. Irritability or even emotional flatness is an indicator through a neuroscience lens that there might be something going on. Um, and sometimes we mask fatigue as low motivation. I mean, as men, we can't be fatigued, so it must be something else, right? And then there's and the neuroscience, there's a sense of being stuck in that flight or fight mode. You're always ready to take on what's going on, and that's one of the things that's really challenging as well, that we feel that we have to be the caretaker of the world. One of the things that I say to folks I'm just going to talk a little bit about because we're running out of time real quick. So I would like, some of the things that people can do to look at changing these habits that they may have is what I call a 5-minute decompression ritual. And basically, you put your phone away, step outside, do some slow breathing, and put your shoulders down, believe it or not. And that's kind of the neuroscience piece too. I mean, when I'm stressed, I don't realize that my shoulders are like this. And then I'm wondering at the end of the day, why are my shoulders so tight? So that's one thing you can do. Another thing that you can do is just have one honest conversation per week, not a deep therapy session, just one accurate sentence. I'm carrying a lot right now. I'm more tired than I've admitted, and I could use a reset, right? And then another simple thing to do, and I think that we all should think about practicing this, ask yourself once a day, what is my body doing? What's my mood doing? And what's my energy doing? So this is like a self-check that you can do with yourself, and then you can kind of figure out where the stress is in your body. And for those who like to do something physical to get that out, that's a very good thing to do. And then just finally, just replace "I'm fine" because we always say "I'm fine," "I'm good," "I'm okay." Replace "I'm fine" with one true sentence. One true sentence about how you are, because this alone, this one thing alone can help reduce the stress load that people are carrying. So I wanted to make sure I got those in before we ended today, that there are some things that you can do, and certainly offer these things. You can do these things even in your sessions with our members. Tell them, to take breath. Tell them to concentrate on their bodies for a few minutes if you notice something, and what's your body doing, and those kinds of things. So there's lots of techniques to sort of look at how we can de-stress ourselves from all the emotional baggage that we carry. And so those are just a few of them. And there's just so much more I really could talk about with all of this. And I really appreciate your attendance today. And thank you for all inviting me to do this today.
Thank you so much, Stanley. It's so easy to have this conversation with you. I feel like you and I could have gone for another at least half hour, if not a whole additional hour. So I'm positive that you'll be seeing Stanley again, hopefully soon. He is a really wonderful wealth of knowledge, and as you can see, a really beautiful, open person who has gone through the journey of life. And is still living life, is still figuring it out, but also has figured out things along the way that he can help you with. So I did just drop his Life Guides profile in the chat for you. If you felt like this conversation, it goes in tandem with something maybe you've been feeling inside of your spirit and your soul, then maybe it's time for you to have a cool conversation with Stanley. It can be a 15-minute conversation. It doesn't have to be crazy. This is a choose your own adventure, especially in the ways that we want to up-level our well-being and be the greatest versions of ourselves. We did have one question in the chat, and I think we answered it through our other questions, but I'll just read it out loud. Why do you believe that, especially during child rearing and adolescence, it's instilled in young men to toughen up or man up when they see young men displaying what they deem feminine traits? And I think it does go back to the societal expectations on a lot of what we've talked about. But I did want you to know, Yvette, we saw your question and we hope that it was answered. And if you want it answered even deeper, there's always a session with a guide that you can do. So we are so excited that you all were able to be here with us. This was the last session of Men's Wellbeing. We have come to full completion. We have closed that circle up. But just because we're not doing the public programming for Men's Wellbeing anymore does not mean that Men's Wellbeing ends here. Men's Wellbeing starts with these conversations and ends with you having a conversation that changes yourself, the way you walk through the world, and hopefully the others that you come in contact with. Next month, we are doing spiritual growth. So we will see you on Monday, starting our spiritual growth month. And there's a survey that pops up at the end. Please fill it out. If you've got any great comments for Stanley, you can leave it in there, and I will be sure that they get sent to him directly. Thank you all so much, everyone. And Stanley, it has been a great pleasure having you.
Very much. I appreciate it.
Bye,
Goodbye, everyone.
everyone.